Welcome back to another New World video. Somehow, I don't know how I missed this ultimate guide video for the whole of Tempest. So we're going to go through that today. I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the dungeon, how to get it, to run it through easier, run it through faster, make sure you stop dying, especially if you're a returning player or somebody who's new to level 60. Okay, so we're going to go through absolutely everything. We're going to also do like a full run through guide of the whole dungeon. So this video will be a little bit long because the dungeon's quite long. But stick with it, check it out, and if you enjoy it, you do all the usual stuff. Drop a like on the video, comments down below, and any more content you'd like to see, and obviously a sub on the channel. We just gone past 300 subs, which I know is not a lot, but if you want to help me get even more, make sure you subscribe into this video when you're watching. I popped up on the screen as well the latest Twitch drops. The skin, this is what it looks like. This came out on the 22nd of September. So if you want to check out all these drops and get these from my channel, for example, I'll put all the links down below or to the side of me here. You can check me out on Twitch. And my channel's the exact same as YouTube, just LiamH. So drop me a follow on there in advance as well. And yeah, let's get straight into the video. So let's start off with where is the dungeon, just in case you've literally never seen it before. It is right at the very top of the Eternum map, all the way up here above Merkguard, and you've got the Tempest Heart dungeon. You can obviously now use the group finder if you're looking for a group, or you can just portal over if you've never been there. Well, actually, if you've never been there before, you'll probably have to go through an elite chest run, and once you come to one of the sort of central portals here, there will be a shrine, and then from there you can obviously enter the dungeon. Now, don't forget, see this little repeatable quest here? This will give you a tempestuous cache the first time you run Tempest that day, and every other time you rerun the dungeon that same day, and you keep picking up this repeatable quest, it will give you a gypsum orb as a prize, as a reward. So make sure you're picking up those, especially if you need your expertise bumps. That's how you get into the dungeon. Another thing I would advise to do as well, come over here into Mountain Home Outpost, which is just below it, and go over to your faction vendor, whichever one you're with. Obviously I'm with Syndicate, and you'll pick up any of these expedition ones, these missions here. The other two you can just close off, and basically when you go through the dungeon, you complete the mission, you come back, you hand it in here. You'll get a high amount of faction tokens because it's an end game zone, and obviously it's like a nice little bonus for whilst you're doing the dungeon anyway. Right, in terms of what gear you should enter this dungeon with, so the recommended gear score for this dungeon is 570, which is actually quite high for like a generic end game dungeon, because like Genesis and Lazarus, for example, I've never actually been able to find where they list the requirements for your gear score. But I think it's pretty low. Same with Barnacles. I've seen people run Barnacles, for example, which is another new endgame dungeon, in like the really low 500s, but this one is specifically 570. We found on the forums a couple of months ago. So try, if you're not quite 570, just be careful. Try and enter a group with more than a few people over 570, or yourself, just try and get to 570 as close as you can. If you're a little bit worried, or you want to really start min-maxing this dungeon, you'll want to take gear which has a corruption ward on it. Again, if it's just the normal dungeon you're doing here and not mutations, you don't have to go this far. I'm just talking about if you want to min-max it a little bit. And then obviously on some of your damage weapons, which I'm not sure if I've got any with me, but you want to make sure. So for example, see where this weapon has, let's have a look at this one. See where this weapon has Lost Bane on it? Well, this dungeon is obviously corruption. So you want to take any weapons that have corruption bane on them. I don't have any on me, but you know how that works. It just means you do extra damage to all the mobs inside there, and the corruption ward just means you reduce the amount of damage that you take whilst you're in there as well. Okay, now the overall damage types. Again, if you want to do the most amount of damage whilst you're in there, and especially if you're a DPS player, if you look across this damage types, we're going up against corrupted. So if you're using your slash weapons, you're just neutral, which is fine. If you're using a fire staff, you're fine. A void gauntlet, you had lightning gems on your weapons for any reason, that's fine. It's okay. You just do neutral damage. You're not doing like reduced damage. The one, or probably the one really that I definitely wouldn't take into a corruption dungeon, is definitely the ice. So if you've got any ice gems on your weapons, remove them. Any ice achievements, anything like that. And then obviously the ice gauntlet really suffers in here. Now you could, for example, since arcane is really good in here, if you had an ice gauntlet, that's the only build you've got, so maybe like your ice and void or ice and fire, one way to get this damage up, you could get an ice gauntlet with corruption bane on there. That'll give you plus 15% on this reduction, and then you could put an arcane gem on that, and you would be roughly fighting at neutral. So it's not impossible. If the only weapon you have is an ice gauntlet, you can get rid of this minus 40% if you like. You just won't be dealing like ridiculously good damage. Obviously the best individual weapons to take are your thrust damage weapons. So they are like spear, bow, rapier, musket, blunderbuss. The only thing I would advise is musket. What are we now? 22nd of September. Musket absolutely sucks in PvE. It's terrible. You don't do enough AoE damage. It's basically just good for PvP. So in general, if you're a DPS player and you try and do as much damage as possible, spear bow, spear rapier. Some people do use blunderbuss. That's not too bad. And then if you want to mess around with your gems on your weapons, you've got the arcane gems. You can pop them on there and you'll do some plus damage on there. But in general, if you're trying to min-max this, try not to take any ice weapons. Your strike damage as well, like your Warhammers and stuff. Try not to take too many of those. If it's just an off weapon, doing some AoE damage or some stuns and stuff, that's fine. But here you go. These are all the best sort of, or best and worst, should we say, weapons to take for this corrupted dungeon. So here we have it. We have the start of the dungeon. We've all entered. We took 2 randomers from the group finder because nobody else in our guild wanted to do it. We're going to come up against 2 of these Mercard heavy mobs to start off with. These do hit pretty hard, but as you can see, the mechanics on them fighting are really, really slow. If you're, again, entering this new to level 60, your gear score isn't very high and stuff like that, I would just fight these 1v1. You don't have to pull them both at the same time. Tank grabs them. He's always going to aim solely towards the tank with the big sweeping attacks. Everybody else attack from behind. I'll try and point out some key things around here as well. You're going to, as we go through the dungeon guide, so you come up against 3 mobs here. These are quite easy, but they're those weird sort of sweeping attacks that they do against you, and sometimes they stack up a little bit of decent damage. But again, you know, you're going in here anywhere around 570, you should be fine. Now, I'll try and point these out if I can, but you see these antiquity, can't even say it. You know, you can see them on the screen anyway. They will give you a bonus loot chest at the end of the dungeon. You need to collect 4 of those. There's 1 of those chests in each of the zones, so I'll try and pick some of those out for you. I think we get them as well on this run. Once you run past that sort of spire, all these mobs will start spawning. You got some abominations in there. You got some spear guys in there. Again, tank just rolls around, gathers up all the mobs. You got a bow guy up at the top as well, and then you just basically want to burn through those. That's quite simple, that bit. Now, this next bit, this is going to be an awkward one to talk you through because it doesn't spawn how it should do. So in order to trigger this, you're going to do what I'm doing here. You'll run up towards this door, and then you'll get like a little portal with, like, I think it's Isabella pops out when she starts speaking to you. You basically, that's how you trigger this fight. Now, it's like a corruption portal, if you've ever done one of those. There's 3 corruption portal nodes on sort of each of the, not corners, but if you like, of a triangle corners. They'll spawn. You basically have to have a player go over to each one. Doesn't have to be at the same time. You can do them one by one if you like. You hold E on it with your Azov staff, and it'll close down that portal. At the same time, mobs are going to keep spawning all around. And then what should happen here, but it failed to happen on our run, which was a little bit annoying. There's like a boss man. So like a boss man will spawn, which actually spawns at the end of this fight. Now, he'll spawn about here where we're facing now, sort of like in this sort of, I don't know what you call that little avenue there going towards the big door. You normally pull the big boss man all the way over to us, so one ranged person will just ping him. That way you can fight down the boss on his own without fighting all these little mini ads at the same time, but you tend to pull him to where we are stood here. So that's the strat that you want to do if the boss spawns for you at the start of this fight. Now, it didn't do it for us. That's why I'm explaining it this way rather than being able to show you. But that's also why we like to do these runs where we don't show you a perfect run on the screen, because then if something goes wrong, you'll watch my guide and be like, oh, well, something went wrong in our run, so now we can't, it doesn't make sense. So I'm trying to show you the good part of the run, the bad part of the run, and then explain it all to hopefully make it easier for you if you've never done the dungeon before. As you can see, we're getting a player each go to one of the 3 corners. I'm trying to run around and grab as much aggro as I can. A hatchet is quite good to use at this point as well, because you can use the taunt from the berserk, and obviously that'll pull the mobs in. Once you've done the 3 corners of the portal, the central one, you then, the carpus I think it's called, you then need to basically damage that down and then close that central portal. And all the mobs are just going to keep spawning and keep spawning. So as the tank, just keep running around, grab as much aggro as you can. Just get normally 1 player to just focus on taking the damage in the middle on the carpus, and then obviously using the Azov staff to close that down. And as you can see, they just keep spawning and keep spawning and keep spawning. You don't get any rewards for killing these mobs, really. They're just like repeatables until you've took down the central node. So there we go. We just took down that central node, and that completely destroys the portal. Now, I was actually saying on this run, oh, no way, we didn't get to fight, what was his name? Uzrit, which is one of the boss. This boss guy should spawn at the start of this fight. This is the guy that we wanted to pull over into that corner where we started and fight him separately to all of the other mobs, just to make it a little bit easier for you. So this guy Yeah, for some reason he spawned late for us. Now he's like a bigger version of those two heavy mobs that we fought right at the start of the dungeon. He's got a stamina bar, so if you do big heavy attacks on him, he will obviously kneel down. You can do as much DPS as you can. At the same time, two of the acolytes, these sort of mage mobs, spawn as well. My advice would be tank takes hold of the boss because he can just, you know, shield up all the way through it, and then DPS players go and take out the acolytes. Now the acolytes do some decent damage, especially one of the next parts of the dungeon that we go to in a minute. They do some decent damage, so always try and take out those acolytes as quickly as you can. Like in some of my previous guides for, say, Lazarus, we always tell you to take down the bow guys in Lazarus. In this one, you want to do that. Now if it's your first time in the dungeon, make sure you run up there, and as you can see, there's like a little blue orb in the background. You've got to pick that up. I don't want to spoil it for you though, so you can check that out yourself. It's your first time. Plays like a mini tiny like cutscene. In here there are 2 tendrils. Now the best strat for this, some people run through this, my opinion no, because you get caught. Aggro both of them as a tank, and I'll show you like the best way to do it now. If you aggro both here, we've got the aggro both, and you basically just stand side on like that, and they should, for the most part, if you're DPS them fast enough, just be pinging you but doing no damage. If you stand at that angle as well, you won't be getting hit from the back or the side. You'll be able to shield both of them and then take out the second one. Now in this next room, this is quite important. Ideally, the best method here as the tank is to basically aggro absolutely everything you possibly can. Everybody else, DPS down the acolytes, okay? You know, the mage ones there firing the big beams of whatever it is, corruption and fire and stuff like that. Everybody take down the acolytes. Tank, just hold on to everything else, because those acolytes are an absolute pain in the ass. The tank should be able to hold everything else, as we're doing here now. There we go. We pulled them all. We're taking all the damage, and then the DPS are in the background taking out those acolytes. Once the acolytes are down, a lot simple. Round them all up. If you've got a great axe to pull them together, or I'm trying to pull them together as best I can here in this dungeon, and then take them out. You've also got a bowman as well. We'll take these out. Right, 2 dogs here. Very, very simple. Grab the aggro and just take them all the way through to a tendril. There's no point fighting them here. They don't do a great amount of damage unless you stand still and let them hit you in the back. You've got a checkpoint there as well to the left, which you can jump on. Well, now here we go. Here's the tendril. You're going to run these all the way over to the tendril. As the tank, again, grab the aggro from the tendril and then sort of just step to the side and allow the tendril to hit you and not the other mobs. That's the best way to do it. We've got some decent damage in here. So I think 3 of us are 625 gear score. 2 of us, I think it was Winston and Pablo. We got them from the group finder. They were in the sort of mid 600s, just above sort of 600. This gate will now close, and then you'll get like a circle of mob spawn. I think it's 3 waves here, and a slightly different mob spawn each time. But again, as the tank, you just want to try and grab as much aggro as you can, pull them all in, and then great axe is really good here if you've got the grav well, or like the pulling in whirlwind or anything like that. And then basically just, you know, burn through these mobs. It's not too difficult, this part. Again, as long as you're around 570 gear score or above, you'll be fine all the way through this dungeon. When you are a lot lower, if you're going into this dungeon like 510, 520, you will realize that you do take quite a bit more damage. Now, this is a thing that's coming to NewWorld recently, and I don't know why. The mobs in dungeons are spawning just fractionally slow. I don't know if it's something to do with the fact that they've upped the servers to 2,500, and we were playing at the time when the servers are pretty full last night, like 2,300 maybe. I don't know if it's anything to do with that, but mobs are spawning just a little bit slower than they normally do. Same in this fight here though. You take out the mage first, the occultist, and pull everything else into the center if you can. If you've got anybody who has again Gravwell, pull them in. That was the second wave down, and the third wave is going to come up with like a mini boss. I don't do this perfectly here, so the best thing to do, tank takes hold of the mini boss, and then everybody else just burns through the ads. Here you go, Crewman Ruiz. I think at this point though, because we were doing so much good damage, I just sort of went around smashing mobs and just trying to burn through them. But the best strat here is, yeah, tank takes hold of Ruiz. Everybody else's DPS just sort of burns through. If you're struggling as the DPS and you'll get whacked a lot, tank can switch and take all of the ads, and then everybody takes the boss. That's a quick way to switch it around. But there you go, there's your 3 waves. Once we kill this warrior, the gates will open, and then you can move through to the next part of the dungeon. Yeah, there you go. Now, there's going to be a big boss man in here. Best thing to do here, which we didn't do, again, another good reason to show you, a couple of these mobs just on the outer edges there, ping them with a bow and bring them in. Kill them first before bringing in the big boss man. Here he is. I can never say this guy's name, Keke or something. I can't say his name. And he was jumping around all over. Keke. Yeah, there we go. I think that's right. Now, this guy does loads. He's a big Spriggan, basically, as you can see. If you've ever fought in invasions or anything like that, you've seen Spriggans. He has a couple of different mechanics. So he has the big sweeping hits, but they're really, really slow, and you can always see them coming. So if you get hit by any of these attacks, you should be a bit like, because they're that slow, and they do a lot of damage, but you can see them coming. This big jumping up one, when all these roots come out, you basically don't touch those roots because they'll just knock you down. So stay away from the roots. And it's just basically big swinging attacks. Now, you can fight this guy in various different locations. You can fight him up on the bridge that we came over. There's some stairs in the background. Some people like to pull him into the stairs, so he stays in like a little central located area. For some DPS players, that's actually a little bit harder to hit him, though, depending on what weapons you're using. Because when he's in such a refined location, he's a bit hard to sort of hang on to sometimes. But basically, just keep an eye out for all of these big, heavy, swirling attacks. That's what you're looking out for. But you can see them coming from a mile off, you know? See that? Look, it's so slow. You can always just dodge backwards once, especially if you're in light armor. Just roll backwards once and you won't get hit. Bows are generally good here. If every single DPS player has a bow, I would probably advise you just stick to your bow. And then once he's finished a big, heavy attack like that, jump in with your spear, use your perforate, use your skewer, jolt back out, and then go back to your bow. And just use the bow all the way through. Just makes it a lot easier so you don't take any damage. That then unlocks one of the first chests of the dungeon. So we can grab that, and then we're going to go right up the stairs. You don't go left at this point, you go right. These are the stairs we were talking about, where some groups do like to fight on the stairs, which is fine. Oh, we got a sub on the video. Now, these couple of mobs here. Sorry, this is the downfall of streaming when, recording whilst you're live on Twitch, I suppose. Yeah, you take up all these mobs. You do not need to fight them. You don't get any bonuses. You don't get any drops. You don't get anything specific. So you're going to run up these stairs. A little chest you can pick up there. A little chest in the background. This is the bonus one as well. Make sure you pick that up. Only one person needs to pick those up, by the way. So right near the end of the fight, there's a bonus chest. If you grab the 4 chests that are around the whole dungeon, you go into NewWorld database, you can actually see where they spawn, because they randomly spawn in different zones throughout the dungeon to make it a little bit harder for you. Get the bonus chest. Now here, you pick up that locked chest after this fight. Now this is a fight very, very similar to what is in Dynasty Shipyard, and we've also got a guy for Dynasty Shipyard. So best advice, Tank takes hold of the big one, because she's the one who does like the dragon fire and all that kind of stuff. But the mechanics are exactly the same as Dynasty Shipyard. So one of the early parts of the fight, once you go past the first couple of ships, you use the fireworks to open the door. It's the exact same fight. Literally a copy and paste, but with less ads. There's only 2 ads, and the ads there are acolytes rather than melees. So yeah, Tank takes hold of her, points her away as well. That's the most important thing, because she does the dragon fire as well. Make sure you're making her point towards this door that we're facing now, so all of the DPS players in the background aren't taking any of that damage. And then the DPS players take out the 2 ads. Nice and simple there. You pick up that chest, you go through this portal door, and this puts us back in the same room that we were in before. But we're going to turn slightly left here, and we needed that that key from the chest to get into this next door in order to go through and progress. So here we go. So one of them picked. So you only need one person to pick up any of these chests to get through to the next door. Now we're going to have a big, I don't want to call him a big boss, a big brute spawn in here. Everybody grabs this chest first. You got some orichalcum in the background if you'd like it. We don't really need ori at the minute, so I'm not really grabbing it. So he'll spawn just here in front of us now. There you go. You got Rogue. Now this guy's actually pretty decent. He spawns the Blackguard's Warhammer, I believe, which is one of the best Warhammers you can get in the game. Might not be the actual best, but one of. Especially one that you can get dropped and not crafted. So if you're after a good Warhammer, there's a really good Warhammer that drops from this guy. Very, very simple attacks though. Like all of the brutes in the game, he just uses big heavy attacks, 1, 2, and a big heavy third attack. So always have them pointed at you. Everybody else should be behind, hitting them with the backstab damage. Make sure you do that. But again, so we do breeze over some of these mechanics because some of them are quite easy. If there's anything in depth, we'll go through that. We'll make sure to do that. My voice is gonna go, so I'm gonna cough. I apologize. Really sorry about that. Really sorry. Please still like the videos, even though I just coughed. I do apologize. So the 2 muskets there, guys, you can skip those 2 muskets. You do not need to kill them. They don't provide you anything. They don't provide you any drops, any specific, you know, avenues to the next fight. We're going to run up through here now. This is where you have to turn right. Some people skip this by accident. There's a little sort of crevice down here. There you go. Now, there can be one of the mystery chests, if you like. They spawn there. Now, when you come down here, again, like we spoke about earlier on, some of the mobs aren't spawning, which is really frustrating. Sorry. I think there's a dog that should be spawned here, and then 2 or 3 ads as well. That's all we're missing from this room. So when you come to this room and there's a couple of little ads in there that aren't on this video, just be prepared for them, okay? They're not heavy hitting ads or anything like that. There's only 2 or 3 of them. I think there's a dog and then 2 more mini ones, and then this boss. Best thing to do, again, boss takes hold of the mini boss. Everybody else burns through the ads and the dog. So just be aware of that when you get to that room, okay? There will be 1 or 2 mobs in there that aren't spawning on our run, which is a little bit frustrating, but they've upped all the server numbers at the minute, or the capacity, to try and get more players in. This, I want to call it a bug, and I'm not too sure. It probably is a bug. This was happening before that, to be honest, very, very randomly. You could do 50 dungeons in a row and never see it. You could do 2 dungeons in a row and you'll see it both times. Some of the mobs are just not spawning. Now, the only way to make them spawn is to basically just sit there for like 5 minutes sometimes, and then they'll spawn on a big delay. Now, in here as well, we're missing 1 or 2 mobs. Again, they're just not spawning, so it's a really awkward one. But the only thing that we need to show you in this guide video is just to make you aware that there will be a couple more mobs in this little area. Tank takes hold of Cutthroat Eduardo, whilst, again, I repeat some of these strats, you know what I mean? Tank takes hold of Eduardo, who then obviously all the DPS take hold of all the other mobs. Nice and easy. Here we go. Some nice wizard shoes. I actually think I might use those on a different build. Now, in this room, a lot of people like to just run all the way through and run to the final door in a minute before the Isabella fight and skip these, but I wanted to fight these because I just wanted to show you that you probably fight them yourselves as well, especially if you're new to the dungeon. You don't want to skip things. So some of these mobs are on the spawn delays. You can see this one here. This spawned quite slowly. We've got one of our other secret chests in that corner, so somebody's going to pick that up for us. Going to fight all these. You've got abominations here, you've got spear guys, you've got normal just plain sword and shield mobs. No mechanics to explain here. They're quite simple. You've probably fought these quite a few times whilst you're leveling up to level 60 anyway. You'll know how some of the abominations work, but essentially, yeah, you'll have like a group of mobs there. Some like to pull them all and then sort of take them all to this final door and then run through the door and they won't follow you. You've got a little piece of hidden orichalcum there in the background. You've got your checkpoint there, and then this door opens. Now, what's quite funny, we didn't know this, but one of our players, as you can see, there's only 4 of us. One of our players decided to run backwards and get the orichalcum. Now, the boss fight here with Isabella only triggers when you jump down this next little part here. See this next part down there onto like the carpet? At that point, the boss triggers, and you've only got a few seconds, and that big door we came through closes. So one of our players, as you can see, I'll start pointing them in a minute on the video, decides to get the orichalcum and didn't make it through the door. The door will open after the boss fight, but just be aware, you need to run into this at the same time or you'll get trapped outside and you'll have to probably restart it if you've not got enough players. So this is an Isabella fight. You don't have to kill Isabella all the way down to 0 health. I think you take about 1/3 of her health off. She'll kneel down and then disappear, and you'll fight her again later on in the dungeon. Same strat again as Dynasty. She has the same mechanics as Dynasty. So if you fought her in the Dynasty Shipyard around where the dogs are, 2 big dogs that in that fight, same mechanics. So always keep Isabella facing the tank, everybody else attacking from behind, then she reduces the amount of damage. As you can see here, I completely failed to shield block that one. But yeah, everybody else stay behind. You'll see, as best as I can, I always point her facing directly to me with her back to the mobs. When she jolts back as a tank, don't go running after her, just stand still, she'll come back to you. And as you can see, our player over there, Mechl, he gets stuck in the background because he's getting the orichalcum. And then, so yeah, once you've got Isabella down that 1/3 of health, you'll kneel down, she'll give you a bag that you can pick up with some loot, and she'll disappear. You'll go find her in a minute, and then that door will open, and then obviously our player can come back in once the fight's finished. But yeah, just be aware of that. You don't want to get stuck. Good job it wasn't the healer or the tank. So yeah, follow this around. Now this next little bit of a fight is quite an interesting fight. If you're fairly low gear scored, I've seen a lot of people die here. So best strat, so the mini boss that What's in the middle is kind of like an acolyte mini boss. You'll keep spawning. I think it's the dogs. So just keep spawning them and keep spawning them and keep spawning them. It was actually a priestess, not an acolyte. So best thing in my opinion, try and grab as much aggro as you possibly can. DPS players, go and take out the musket, because the musket is a pain in the ass shooting you. So once the DPS players have took out the musket, take out the priestess as quickly as you can. Now this priestess is actually also similar to the one in depth. If you know how that one works. Now you want to take out the priestess first, because she's going to keep regenerating those dog mobs, which means you're going to keep endlessly fighting. And then once you fought the priestess and the surrounding mobs, you can then move on. Her mechanics, like I said, same as depths. If you've ever done depths, we will do a depths ultimate guide video. That'll be coming next on the channel in about a week's time. I go on holiday after we upload this video. So her mechanics are very simple. She uses the swirling, and then there's no official names for them, so I apologize when I say like swirly, but you'll know what I'm saying. When you look at her, you'll see it. She just she swirls her staff and then plants it down the ground and does some AoE damage. So when she does that, just dodge backwards, and then she'll do some kind of like beam attacks, so she's aiming them towards you. Just be careful. The mechanics there are quite simple, but again, best strat is tank takes hold of everything. DPS burns through the muskets first, and then everybody focuses on the boss, and then the boss doesn't respawn all the dogs, and then you're not fighting over and over again, right? I have no idea why this Merc Guard Legionnaire is even here. Occasionally it'll drop a little baggie with nothing special. I'll be honest, when it comes to what they call trash mobs in these dungeons, I don't know why that one's there. New World devs, don't know. Is there a reason why that mob's there? You're just trying to fill a little gap so then it's not empty? I don't know, but it's such a pointless mob. Now we fight Isabella for the second time. You'll fight Isabella 3 times in this dungeon. The main fight being the end. You'll see 2 Merc Guard cultists spawn here. Now they will keep spawning, or so we say respawning, the longer this fight takes. Okay, so again, you want to take her down about another third of her health. It's important for the DPS players to take out those cultists straight away, because those cultists, whilst alive, empower Isabella. So as soon as you see a cultist, burn it down. If we were really slow on DPS here, which we're a little bit slow to be honest, but if we were really slow, she'll just keep spawning those cultists. They'll keep empowering and doing more damage. In terms of Isabella's fight mechanics, again, because that's what we're here to describe for you, so you know what to do, exactly the same as previous. Okay, she uses the exact same mechanics. Okay, so she's got like the single pistol fire, she's got the group, things like 5, you'll fire out in a line. Again, DPS players just stand behind her. If you stand behind her 99% of the time, you won't take any damage whatsoever. So bear those mechanics in mind. And whilst we're going through this dungeon guide as well, guys, if you come across anything that I ever missed in these ultimate guide videos, comment section down below, make sure you use that, and just let me know if I've missed anything, or if you need anything else explained in a slightly different way. We can go through that in the comment section down below. We tend to I reply to every single comment that comes in as well, unless it's somebody trying to, like, I don't know, sell me graphics or something like that. We tend to delete those. Now this is probably the best looking part of the entire dungeon. Just look how good this looks. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'll try and show. We got another one of those mini chests that we look at. That it just looks so good. I know that's basically just an image in the background of the dungeon. It's not even like a moving thing. It just looks so good though. Pop down here. You've got an ironwood tree if you want to mine that. You've got a checkpoint. There's a little bit of platinum as well if you wanna mine some platinum for some reason on this little right hand side here, but we're just gonna run past. Now there's gonna be a huge now these happen from the invasions. You're the huge skeleton things that come up towards the end and beam you. So the best thing to do here, round up these 3 mobs and take them to this little platform here, because then the beams from the huge skeleton heads can't hit you. Okay, if you stand roughly where I am here now, you can't be hit. The best thing to do is to fight all of these mobs, burn through them as quickly as you can, but everyone must stand together. If you stand together in this little location, you see the beams there in the background. One player tried to go and get the gunfire thing that I don't even know what it's called, to be honest. So yeah, burn through these mobs. Now I'm going to try and show you how this works. As you can see here, big skeleton, he's got 2 eyes. You need to shoot the eyes with this big, I don't even know what you call it, like a repeating turret. Okay, so you jump on the repeating turret, take out one of the eyes, and then it'll jolt back, and that gives you a chance to refresh if you like the fire, and then go for his right eye. Now you can actually shoot these with arrows and hatchet throws and stuff like that if you want, but it's not needed. You just jump on that deletes the skeleton head altogether. There's going to be another skeleton head in a minute, but from this little shrine here, One player just needs to pick that up. As you can see here, Winston's got it. This gives us a huge aura which protects us from the skeleton fire and protects us from any mobs in the area. So that one player keeps hold of this staff, and this is what gets us through. One person will jump on the turret again and take out the next skeleton. And as you can see here, any mobs that come inside of this sort of aura that from the person carrying the staff, it just deletes all the mobs for you. And you take no sort of range damage whatsoever while it's just stood inside this. So you just follow and stay through the staff holder all the way through. There's gonna be another skeleton head there, so you get one more person jump on the turret, fire that down. You can see here, left eye. It doesn't really matter if you do left eye or right eye first. You just do one eye at a time and then move on to the next one until it comes back at you. And the audio here, so we've got an audio from like a random like a NewWorld audio in the background, but the audio in this dungeon is actually really cool. And you hear all those sort of like, yeah, big triggers. It is pretty cool. We're going to move through here. Again, you don't have to hit any of these mobs. They'll all just sort of burn down as you're carrying the staff. And you come up against Isabella here. You don't have to fight her. Once you go and speak to her with that staff, she basically disappears until the end of the boss fight. And then you get an expedition chest. Now, if you've collected all 4 of the mini chests, which just give you this one little item, we'll show you what to do with them now. You've got a checkpoint. Now, all these mobs on the outside, you do not need to kill these. You do, like, there's no bonus or benefit to killing them whatsoever. If anybody has chain damage on your weapon, I'd advise to not use it here, because when you kill the acolytes in a minute, the chain will bounce around. You'll trigger all these mobs and they'll start running after you. It's just a waste. So when you've got them, you know, from the chest that we were talking about earlier, the little bonus ones, you take them over to these 4 shrines. And I'll show you one of those in a minute. Once you unlock all the 4 shrines at the end, if you've got the chest pieces, that is, you might not have found them on your run. You get your bonus chest at the end. You kill this priest. This priest will spawn dogs, but we killed her that fast, she didn't have a chance. Mechanics wise, exactly the same as the previous priest. So nothing new to explain there. Another one here where you see there how you can just plant that with E. All you got to do, you plant it on each of the 4. The only mobs you do have to kill are these acolytes. Now, as you'll see here in a second, somebody does have chain damage on one of their weapons. I don't know which one of these it is, but it's one of them. And then it starts hitting all the other mobs around. Give it a few seconds, you'll see some chain bouncing around. Now, there you go. Green chain. So I think somebody's got chain nature, I think. Someone's got chain nature. So that starts triggering all of these dormant mobs around the outside. So now we've got to fight those as well. Just a little bit of a waste. A bit annoying. There's your 4th and final statue there. Oh, sorry, that's your 3rd statue. 3rd statue, if you've got your little bonus chests. Here you go. Again, you can literally go to like NewWorld database. You can search Tempest. You can search the chest, and it'll show you the different locations where they might spawn. I can't really show you in the guide video because we'd have to rerun the dungeon like 4 or 5 times to show you the different areas where they spawn. You get a small supply stockpile, and then in that 4th and final statue in the background, if you've handed in all 4 of them, there you go. You unlock a bonus chest. That chest you cannot get unless you find all of the 4 mini chests with the items in that you need. Right, on to the next spot. We're coming towards the end of the dungeon now. So after this, we've only got 1 more mini boss and then the 2 final bosses. So we're getting towards the end of it now. This is a bit of a longer dungeon than average. Here, you'll see this big sort of sphere in the center. That sphere is going to start expanding to the outsides of this arena area and eventually just kill you. Best strat is all of you go left or right, but you just got to go together. Only kill the acolytes, okay? Sorry, they're not called acolytes. They're called priests. They keep changing their names. Only kill the priests. You don't need to kill the trash mobs. They will disappear. I think there's 4 priests around the outside. Let's have a 4 or 5. I'll show you now. We've killed 2. This is the 3rd one. Now, as we're killing these, the slower you do this, you'll see the sphere in the center start to expand. Once you go inside of that sphere area, it'll start burning through you, and it'll ruin you, okay? So there's 4 priests. One of our DPS players went and killed the other priest on his own, which kind of ruins showing you on the video. Apologies for that, but you understand. 4 priests around a big circle, go around together, all in a big loop. Kill the priest, move on to the next priest, move on to the next priest, kill all 4 priests. That'll explode, and then you can move on to into here. Now we have another one of these big heavy hitters. This one is Headman. Is that Pang? Headman Pang. Again, he works the same. Also, the exact same boss, but made smaller, as in Dynasty. You fought this guy when you got the 2 acolytes that are with him as well. Again, he's got a stamina bar, so you can burn through his stamina with the heavy attacks and bring him down. And then the only other mechanics are the big, swirly, heavy hitting attacks. It's so the mechanics for this one don't need to show you too much. Again, DPS players and healers stand behind, tank face him up, and there you go. Now here we go. I do actually already have guides on this final boss, so if you want a more in-depth, if you like, guide on this final boss, this is Naishatan that we're coming up to now. If you go through my videos, subscribe to the channel, go through my videos, you'll see a Naishatan only boss fight we brought out back when the dungeon came out. So it's quite a fun fight. Loads of people can die and wipe here depending on a little bit of luck, which we'll show you. I, as a tank, always switch to my spear for this fight. I use basically 2 skills. I use Skewer, which I also had the perk Enfeebling Skewer to reduce the damage from the boss by 44%. That's a big one. If you've got some spear users with Enfeebling Skewer perk, use that. And then I use Perforate to put the triple stack of rend on there. Now, mechanics wise, you just got to keep an eye out on him. He will do big heavy attacks, but he'll always aim at who he's doing it for. See there? He'll always aim. And when he's aiming at you, just dodge away from it. I would advise try and use your bows versus him rather than your spears and stuff. Again, if you want an ultimate guide, just the boss fight perfectly, check out that ultimate guide video. Okay, so quite a few views on it. It's a good video. Once you burn through a bit of his DPS, all of these rings will start to spawn. As you can see, they're quite random. Don't listen to anybody who says in the second phase, which we'll explain in a minute, you stand where these mini mobs spawn and you'll always be fine. I've proven that many times on stream. That doesn't work. But all you want to do here is run around the outsides and don't stand in these circles whilst they explode. Okay, this is the first phase. This phase is quite easy. It's quite slow. It gets a little bit harder in the second and third phase if you manage to get a third phase. Boss will spawn here. Now, big thing to notice, once the boss spawns, you'll always do a big run and heavy attack at the tank. When the boss comes up, don't stand near the tank. Okay, it's really, really important. Just let them do his big hit. And you can see that mechanic as well. When he rises up and another fire chain comes below, you can just dodge through that. When the portals spawn, every single player apart from the tank goes and hit those portals. If you do not delete that portal in time, I think you get like 10 seconds or something. It'll basically explode and then it'll put a fire tick on every single player. If you also stand in one of the big zone rings, when they explode, these rings here, you'll also get a tick of fire. You get 3 or 4 ticks. That's when you basically can't be healed through it anymore. You can't pop through it anymore. So essentially, do not stand in these circles. You can take 2 to 3, but once you start getting 4 stacks or 5 stacks, that's it. You will not be able to heal yourself through it. You'll die and you'll be out the fight. See the way these little mini mobs are spawning here? A lot of people keep saying this to this day. Stand exactly where they spawn, and then the rings will not spawn there, right? Now, I don't know if we can prove it to you on this video, but I've done this dungeon, I don't know, 75 times maybe, right? And there you go. Actually, we're just proving it there. So that left ring that you can see now, that's where that last mob spawned from. But it still spawned a ring. So if you ever hear anybody say stand where they spawn, don't listen to them, okay? It doesn't work. We're now into the third phase. So a couple of rings will spawn, but mostly you just want to start burning through the boss. Just watch out for him aiming at you. If you ever see him do a big bow pullback, and it gives you like an orange aura around his bow, he's going to fire a big straight line shot at you. Just wait until he's about to fire it and then just dodge to the left. You don't want any other of your teammates to be in that line as well. You're going to look out for that. Hopefully I can show you when he does it. He's going to do a rain of arrows as well, which doesn't do too much damage. So you're okay there. We're into the third phase. Again, if you think this is a little bit fast and you want like a better in-depth of just this boss fight, check out that other video, the Naishatan video there. So yeah, you're going to get a couple of these mobs spawn. Basically, just kill them slowly as you're waiting for the rings to explode. And then we'll go into the final part of the boss fight. But it's quite a fun fight. But the reason why a lot of people die here is either they don't time their dodges right. So they don't save if they're rolling light dodging players, they don't save that. And then also if you just get unlucky, sometimes you get really, really unlucky. See the way we just been able to stand there all the way through that part of the fight? We've got really, really lucky. Sometimes all of those rings will spawn and you have to run to the complete opposite end of it. There's the big attack. See that one then? With the bow. That's the one we were just talking about. It'll fire in a big line. Wherever that's aimed at, everybody else just move away from the line of fire. Again, I'm using my Enfeebling Skewer. I'm using the Perforate, which weirdly the Perforate I think still works even when the mob is below 50% health, which is really weird. I'm pretty sure it works. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was getting Ren stacks there as well. And there you go. That is the Naishatan boss fight completed. and you'll get your there's no more exploits in this dungeon as well. So there was a couple where you could basically hide on a little platform when the dungeon first came out, right on the edges of the arena, and then basically just bow him down and kill him, and it was cheating. I didn't really like it, to be honest. I think I only ever done it once or twice when the whole group wanted to do it. I was like, oh, this is a nightmare. But yeah, NewWorld to fix all that, so there's no more exploits with it for this kind of the fight. There'll be nothing to fight here. We've been in here before, so we just skip through this, and then we go into the final fight, which is Isabella. And I'll explain the Isabella fight as well. Again, we also have a boss only YouTube video for the guide if you want a bit more in depth than this, what we're showing you here, just a little bit more in depth. Check out that video as well, but I will still explain all the mechanics here. So once you come through the portal, you've got your checkpoint. Don't run past, see that little sort of thorny edged area there? Do not run past this like Pablo does until all your teammates are there. Once one person runs out of there, it will start to kick off the arena, so you definitely don't want to do that. Get that up now, there we go. And then once you come through, you'll start the arena fight. Now, if you look at the arena here, there's kind of like 3 zones, right? You see sort of like 3 circular zones, like the platforms, if you like. You can stand anywhere on those. Do not stand in any of that sort of black murky water. There's puddles in the central and then all around the outside. If you stand in there, you'll basically just die within a few seconds. You don't want to really fight on those little channels in between the 3 platforms, the circular platforms, because if Isabella jolts you in any way, she can sort of sometimes just ping you into the puddles and you're dead and you're out the fight. Now, Isabella has quite a few mechanics. Loads of swirl. As you see, she's grown some corruption wings this time. Loads of swirly attacks. A couple of similar attacks than what she used to have, where she sends out that burn there. Loads of sweeping attacks. So the best thing is the tank is to just sort of move back a little bit when she does them sweep attacks. All the DPS want to be stood behind her. You probably want one player or just the healer to be stood further away. Now, one mechanic you will do, whichever player is stood furthest away from her, she'll put a stack of burn on you. So you can see we've got Pablo and we've got Miss J in the background. I think the stack of burn is on Miss J at the moment, so just beware of that. Now, this mechanic here, 2 or 3 times during the fight, she'll jump up and start flying around. Once you've got the logo above your head, that means she's aiming for you. It's quite easy to get out of the way. Just wait until she's nearly there in terms of flying straight at you, and then just dodge to the side. Any players around you, try not to stand in the same line of sight because you'll all get hit. But essentially, you're just dodging to the left or dodging to the right. Now, as the tank, if you've got the aggro, you don't need to run around this arena trying to grab onto her. When she decides to fly around and then explode over there, and then just leave her. Don't run around her. Don't be like a headless chicken, okay? Just wait. She will always come back to the tank as long as you've got the aggro. Some big heavy attacks here. And again, just keep an eye out on those. So you can see all the mechanics demonstrated here. You'll do the big jolt up attack. And then once you get it down to nearly 1/3 of health, we'll show you when we go into the second phase of the fight now. There you go. She leans down. She goes to explode. And then she always goes to there first. Now, we're going to run to a different platform, and I'll show you why. She's going to spawn like a big orb in a big protective swirl. Do not be stood in that protective swirl while it's activated, or it'll just kill you, okay? When she does the big explosion and she puts a ring around it, you know she's going to bring up that portal. That portal empowers it. As you can see above her head now, she's got the black fist, or the black and white fist logo above her head. She is currently empowered, which means she's doing more damage, okay, whilst that portal is activated. After about 10 or 15 seconds, the swirls will remove from the portal, as you can see on the right hand side, where my camera is. You send one player over to close down the portal using their Azov staff, just pressing E, right? Now, the one mechanic you need to watch out for, as you can see Meglo dodging around in the background there, it'll spawn some like random meteors on the floor. You just need to not stand in the circles on the floor, and then you won't get knocked down, okay? She's going to do the flying around here, as you can see. When she comes to you, little dodge, nothing hard to work out there. But yeah, you just send one player, but once the swirls are gone. Now, she's going to keep spawning these portals until she's dead. She'll pick a different platform each time. Same mechanics, rinse and repeat. If you're a tank, chill out like I'm doing here. She'll do a little bit of attacks here and there, but I know I've got the aggro. I don't need to move. I ain't running after this Isabella. She can come to me. Little dodge to the side at the end there to miss that final attack so it doesn't burn your stamina. And there's all the players. Again, always designate one player to be on the portal duty. Okay? So hopefully Meglo goes for this one again. I think we might actually kill Isabella before. But it's really important, if you are taking a lot of damage here, to basically just fortify up, use your pots and all that kind of stuff until that portal is down. Once you finally burn through Isabella, now basically the slower you kill her here as well, she'll spawn those portals, and she'll keep spawning the portals and keep spawning them until you kill her. If you don't close down those portals, she'll spawn a second portal and a third portal, and at that point she's doing like all this extra damage, and she'll just kill you. Now right near the end here, once you've killed Isabella, like we've done here, make sure you hold up on the Azov staff to finish off the dungeon. If you forget to do that, she actually wipes you. So at the end here, make sure you go over and hold E, or it wipes the whole fight and you're gonna start again. We forgot to do that sometimes. And she'll give you a baggie as well, and then there's like a little mini sort of like, not really a cutscene, but like an in-game cutscene, and you know how the corruption sort of disobeyed her and all that kind of stuff. But guys, there you go. There is your, and a little cool thing as well is, sorry, actually, once you leave this dungeon, if you're outside the dungeon door, run up the steps outside dungeon door, head into the sort of, it's kind of like a church, hand in your little quest that you picked up earlier that we showed you at the top of the map, and then there's also a person to the left. If you speak to that person, there's an end game cutscene. I think it's like 1.5 minutes long, possibly. We've shown it a couple times on the stream and on the YouTube, so make sure you check that out. But guys, this is the ultimate guide video for the end game dungeon, which I think has been in the game now for maybe like 3 months. It's called Tempest Heart Corruption Dungeon. Hopefully you've gotten all the information you need. If you've liked the video, please guys, drop a like on that video. It really does help. Any comments you want to drop down below of anything you'd like me to tweak in the video or explain ever so slightly in another way, because I know people learn in different ways. Check that out. And again, I'll put all my links down below if you want to check me out on Twitch. That would be amazing. If you want to drop me a follow while you're watching this YouTube video, and then come and say hi and let me know if you like the videos. And you know what, even if you didn't, if you'd like me to make these ultimate guide videos in a little bit of a different way, that'd be cool. I did have one person comment down below saying that I do this in a match of the day format, which you know what, it actually is. I guess it's like a match of the day, if you know what that is, because if you're not from England, I suppose. But yeah guys, look, if you liked all the videos, like, subscribe, all that kind of usual stuff. Comment section down below. Check out my Twitch channel. That would be amazing. If you could drop me a follow on Twitch and come watch me on there, that'd be sweet. And we will do the depth video next, and then Starstone, and we'll work our way backwards on some of the other videos. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one.